you got a different set of expectations that are coming out of people who've experienced better with e-commerce, the way it's been delivered, and then you have just a generational shift that is only going to get exacerbated with future generations of everything is customized, everything is a one-to-one engagement and experience, and it needs to be customized to me. And in the car buying process, we know the ills of the industry and how long they have been there, which is the dealership experience can be fractured. The connection between someone doing a bunch of research online and then walking into a dealership and hearing, what can I help you with? And, oh, well, that wasn't the real deal. Let's talk about something else. Like, that stuff is just it can't exist anymore if you want to keep customers.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining another episode of The Drive, Las Vegas edition. We're here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada at the Digital Dealer Conference, and I have Joe Kyriakoza with me. Did I get it right?
Kyriakoza.
See, I'm going to keep practicing it. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
You had it all right until
I had it all until we just turned on the camera. Joe, thanks for taking the time to come jam with me today. We're going to talk everything data, specifically Polk data, and this is an industry where we constantly use the term that we are sitting on a gold mine of data. And I just don't think we ever really deep dive enough into really explaining what that actually means. So, Joe, I like starting off these podcasts with a little origin story. Because I'm always fascinated, because I don't think anybody ever wakes up one day and goes, I should do automotive. So how did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Yeah, well, I am born and raised and never left Detroit. So right there, you're kind of born into it. You know, you sort of don't have a choice, I think, in some ways. But no, I love the industry, don't get me wrong. But I think at one point, maybe in like the early 2000s, there was a data point that said 80% of jobs in Michigan were related to the auto industry. So
makes sense.
So yeah, it's obviously a big part of the culture there and where I grew up. But by nature, I'm not really like a car guy. Like, this is a really cool Corvette, but I don't necessarily want one. Yeah. But I do like cars that are fun to drive, but it's not like I collect cars or anything like that. I just am interested in the industry itself and the ways that consumers engage and use vehicles as kind of like an icon for their life, and how that really just changes the way that brands think about how to speak to them and how to market to them, right? That's always been what's intriguing to me. So how I got started was, and I'll totally age myself here, which is fine. In the late 90s, I worked for an ad agency, a digital ad agency, which really wasn't a thing back then, but that's why I was doing it, because I was like, this is the future. This is really exciting. So I went to a digital ad agency called Beyond Interactive. Now, that wasn't an automotive specific thing, but after I spent a few years there, I ended up working at an agency, the agency for Ford Motor Company, which was called Ford Motor Media.
Yes, I remember.
So I was there to run the digital ad media buying and planning, and again, at the time, I was actually the only person there that did that. So that was 2001, and so I basically built out
like the
digital media buying and
Google
planning solutions for the Ford agency, and really just started to set up, ad server contracts and, contracts with all the endemic auto sites that we all know, like Edmunds and Auto Trader and whatnot, and working with like Yahoo and Microsoft, MSN.com and AOL when it was AOL. So those are the types of things that I was just kind of bringing to the table, because no one else there knew anything about that stuff. So it was like, okay, like, here's the budget, help us spend it. So it was exciting, because we really were developing something there that was helping a big brand really navigate an area that was new, that felt like maybe like today what like the metaverse feels like what is that, like what does it even mean to us?
New, yeah.
I'm not going to worry about that right now.
Yep.
Like, that's kind of how people reacted to digital in that in the early 2000s, late 90s. But for me and my heart and the people that I worked with, we always knew like this is where everything's going. So that's what got me into it.
So you got bit by the auto bug.
I did, yeah.
I know a lot of people started with Ford and got bit by the auto
Yeah,
bug.
yeah, for sure. And they're a great company to work with. I mean, I wasn't working for Ford per se, but I was kind of contracted by them, and they were great to work with. Good crew there.
Very cool. Well, hey, you got a cool session here at Digital Dealer.
Yeah.
Was it one or two sessions? I can't remember.
It was just one.
Just the
It
one,
just
right?
happened this morning, actually.
And so let's chat a little bit about that, because I heard it went really well.
Yeah. We had a big
And
crowd.
there were some great takeaways from that. So
Yeah. The premise of the session was, really the customer experience for buying vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how that needs to evolve and change and really just come to this century, right?
Yes.
And it's a really important topic because, one of the key takeaways was, look, like this is a time that's really rare, which is dealers, OEMs are profitable. There's a lot of money being
times are
saved,
good. Yes,
right?
yes.
There's a lot of money being saved. There's not a lot of money being spent frivolously on, big ad campaigns or big auto show installations or anything like that. I mean, I was at the Detroit Auto Show a few weeks ago, and it was a little bit of a sad state. Like there was not a lot of presence there.
I know. Not the monster things they used to be.
So, I think one of the points was this is the right time to be spending on improving your consumer experience,
100%,
right?
Absolutely.
And that was a great it was a great point made by Vicky from Salesforce, who was also on the panel, and she spent a lot of time at Honda before Salesforce, so she kind of observed that being an opportunity, but really it's just this idea that look, the world is the world of shopping and buying and commerce
Yep.
is a hybrid, right? It's a hybrid, and every industry's been disrupted by e-commerce, right?
No, I have a theory on this. I want to get your
Sure.
perspective on this, okay? Because I've been in the business long enough to remember that relationship selling was the key to my success, right? And I understood maybe when I started in the early 2000s, information wasn't maybe always available, and so from a consumer perspective, you really had to trust your salesperson that this was a good deal. So relationship selling was key, and I almost hate this coming out of my mouth, but I kind of feel like relationship selling has almost gone away, and what in lieu of that is now experience buying.
Yeah.
Where the expectation is like, I don't need to necessarily have a relationship with you to purchase a $70,000 vehicle, but I do expect an experience when I purchase a $70,000 vehicle or $40,000, whatever it is.
Right.
And I'd love to kind of get your thought on just how the consumer has changed and the expectation of that experience.
Well, I think part of it is you talked about being bit by the automotive bug. We've all been bit by the Amazon bug.
Oh, yes, that's right.
We all believe and feel and have experienced this idea that customization, like the fact that like Amazon knows when you need something again, you need to refill something, like the level of customization and ease of use, the easy button that Amazon is for all of us, to good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be detrimental, just spending too much money on meaningless things. But that has trained our brains to want this kind of experience with everything we buy.
Yes.
So that's part of it. The second part, that's part of it that actually has accelerated the adoption of this kind of behavior in every category.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the bigger aspect of it that is basically just kind of topples over everything is generational, right? Like everybody that, I have two teenagers, like everybody that is of that era, that was born in the last, 10, 20 years is only going to expect that.
Yes.
And they're going to look at anything else as like using a tablet and chisel to write.
100%.
Like,
I mean,
that we would think of that,
My expectation anymore is that when I'm spending money, my exchange for that money spent is an experience. It's not enough that I just get a steak.
Right.
I want the experience that goes along with it. We were at a steakhouse the other night. That was the first time this ever happened. I thought it was absolutely amazing. They brought out 7 different steak knives and then told us the history of each of the steak knives.
Oh,
and you got to choose What kind of steak knife you wanted before your steak come out? I'm like,
That's amazing.
this is kind of silly, but really kind of cool. But it added so much to this experience.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's it. You've got a different set of expectations that are coming out of people who've experienced better with e-commerce, the way it's been delivered, and then you have just a generational shift that is only going to get exacerbated with future generations of everything is customized, everything is a one-to-one engagement and experience, and it needs to be customized to me. And in the car buying process, we know the ills of the industry and how long they have been there, which is the dealership experience can be fractured. The connection between someone doing a bunch of research online and then walking into a dealership and hearing, what can I help you with? And, that wasn't the real deal. Let's talk about something else. Like, that stuff is just it can't exist anymore if you want to keep customers. And one of the points that I made today was, look, industry vehicle loyalty and dealer loyalty are at an all-time low.
100%.
They are at an all-time low. Well, we've been tracking loyalty for 30 plus years. The numbers are crystal clear that they are at an all-time low, and it's all dipped since the pandemic. Basically, it's dipped about 7% percentage points since the pandemic, which is severe because in like the 10 years before that, it was pretty stable. So that alone tells you that if the experience isn't good, I'm out, right, as a consumer. Or if you don't have what I need, which is a lot of why this is happening too today, then I'm going to go somewhere else. If I need a crossover and you don't have, you don't have the one I want, Honda or whomever, I'm going to go to Toyota and I'm going to get what I need because they have one available. So loyalty is huge, because if you can't maintain loyalty, you're losing revenue, you're losing lifetime value of those customers, and it costs a heck of a lot more to get a new customer than to keep one. So those are the things that really come out of today's session. Is experience matters from the beginning of the purchase process,
from the very first impression
to the minute they're ready to buy another car. You make sure they're buying it from you, whether it's the dealer or the brand. But in either scenario, you want to maintain that customer because it costs a lot to get them back.
And that experience needs to be almost linear or with a gradual incline. It can't be like what we've had in the past of these mountains and these valleys and just these peaks. And it's like, okay, we're gonna go on this test drive. We're gonna have so much fun on this test drive. We're gonna go here. We're gonna go a highway. We're gonna do this city driving. Then we're gonna come back and all right, now let's go to my office. And then I'm going to disappear into the abyss that is my sales manager's office. And I'm going to present you a handwritten offer.
Spend half the day there, and like that just doesn't work anymore, And
it
that's
can't be
the
this
thing.
up and down.
So the seamlessness between those processes, like if digital retailing is what it's supposed to be, then that should solve it, right? Obviously, there's still a ways to go. But
because digital retailing is a process, not a piece of technology. Technology supports the process, but I still think as an industry, we're still looking at it as a widget.
Absolutely, which is not the approach to take. It is an overhaul of the entire sales process if you're doing it right,
I actually call it buying process.
The whole buying process.
What I mean? Because I feel like the sales process is almost kind of gone.
Yes.
And now it's a buying process, and you can present the person with 5 different ways to buy.
Yeah. And so today's session was great. Axiom did a great job of hosting it and leading it, but yeah, a lot still to learn in that whole customer and consumer experience domain for the auto industry, and they need to take lessons from other industries like Amazon, retail, and different travel, like ones that are really optimized for a great experience, and a lot of times you just don't get that in auto, unfortunately. And the one area that you do, arguably, and it depends on, and this is a touchy subject with dealers.
I like touchy subjects. Let's go there. Let's do this, Joe.
Is the disruptor brands like Tesla and Rivian and Lucid and everybody else that is eliminating the dealer model. But
there's talks of Ford doing it too. I mean,
but when you go through those experiences, it's really easy.
Yeah.
Right? The whole process is really easy. Now, you don't get your car right away, but you've got a reservation. Typically, you've got, an idea of when you're going to get it. And you're building a car and you're paying one price.
Well, it's a very linear process.
Yeah.
Right? You don't, like, again, you don't have these mountains and valleys. It's not like, okay, we've done our 2 hours of negotiation. Okay, by the way, I need you to go speak to my F9 manager in the box.
Yeah. In the hot box.
In the box. You know, I was sitting in a dealership a few weeks back and actually heard a salesperson use the term. And I think he felt bad. I think he had a moment, was like, oh crap, did I actually say that out loud? But he's like, yeah, okay, follow me. I'm just gonna take you over to the box real quick.
Oh my.
Holy crap, my ears perked up. I was like, oh my God.
Not a good customer experience.
Can you imagine telling a customer, yeah, we're gonna go to a box. Let's go to the box.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah.
Well, look, there's so many elements or stages, all right, to creating a frictionless experience. For maybe the people out there that are watching and listening right now, you know, instead of kind of biting off the whole thing, all right, what do you think is one of the most key points within the experience that really needs to be optimized right now?
I think at a minimum, just clean up your own data, right? Clean up your own house. Dealers have a lot of data, and more than they realize, but also more than they've really done a good job with to actually utilize the right way. Mm-hmm. And what's happened is you get DMS data, right? So you have purchase information, you get CRM data through different channels, whether it's leads or your website or some kind of newsletter, whatever the channels are. You get data from auto shows, you get data from all different places where you're capturing some kind of identity. Mm-hmm. And understanding A, like, why did those people engage with you? B, who are they, right? Where do they live? What's their proximity to you? And then C, like, what else do we know about them that you may not have information on? You can buy that, by the way. You can connect data with other data. That's a pretty common practice. We do a lot of that with the Polk data. We help enhance data sets where maybe you just have an email address on somebody and you want to know what kind of cars in their garage. We connect those dots so that you understand, like, oh, okay, I've got all these people that are in market for an F-150 mm-hmm. that have that submitted a lead for an F-150, and all of them already have one in their garage. Okay, good to know. Like, this is a loyalty play that I just need to make sure I get these people over the finish line because they already love the brand, right? But if half of them happen to be Silverado owners, well, now you really got to figure out a way to get these people over the line, whether it's an incentive, whether it's a better experience.
But you also know how to engage with them.
Yeah.
Like, see, that's, I think, one of the other key points is actually conversation.
Yes.
Meaningful.
How you communicate with them. What's the sequence of messages you want to send them? And again, like, we've all been through you get a mailer for a car that you no longer have, or you get a service reminder a week into a new purchase or something. Like, this is what I mean. Like, we have to clean up our data and do right by the consumer 100%. So that at least that part of the experience is good, and you're scratching the surface on what it could then become, right? But if you don't start with that, the rest of it's not even worth your time, because you're just going to create a mess on top of a mess, right?
Well, no, you're 100% right. Data is only as good as what we actually do with it.
Correct.
And we can do some really impressive things. We can elevate the experience by connecting these dots. Yep. Because we can know more about the consumer. We can understand a little bit more about their intent. And we can craft out a buying process that is more specific to them.
Yeah, and there's a lot of technology to support that. A lot of companies sitting on that floor at Digital Dealer that can do those things.
Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, because
sure.
Now we're, for many years we talked about for dealers on how to pick the right marketing agency and what are the 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 things that you should be looking for to really make sure that you're finding a partner within your marketing efforts. Now it's finding a data partner,
right? Or what am I trying to say here? Sorry.
That's okay, but I find that there's, unfortunately,
CDP partner.
There you go, CDP partner. Yes, there you go, CDP partner.
So many acronyms.
That's our industry. 3-letter acronyms and 4-letter words.
Yeah.
But so, from a dealership's perspective, like, how do I shop for a good data partner? What should I be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, that is always the hardest part for dealers. And I actually feel bad for dealers all the time because I know that they get fire hosed with vendor outreach, right? At a probably at an all-time level now with the way you can engage people through social media and, you know, the way that data is collected, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, like, I think there's two things you got to worry about if you're a dealer. One is, like, who am I working with? Is this a company that's real? Is this a company that's got some history, that has a resume of brands that they work with or companies that they work with that look like, sound like, act like mine? And should I do some research on references and things like that? I think that's, you know, it sounds very basic, but I think a lot of people are so busy that they just kind of go, oh, that sounds really good. Let me just try this out. Right?
Yes, exactly.
You know, someone said something at the conference, like, a dealer would try anything for $500 a month, you know? And then,
I hate to say it, but there's actually probably some truth for
not
all,
but again, I guess
many.
that it's like, yeah, I'll walk up to a blackjack table and throw $20 on and go, okay, I lost. I'm not gonna worry about the $20, but I'm done.
Yep.
You know, so, but at the end of the day, like, you know, and I think this is a bigger deal than it probably is to a lot in this industry, but I just don't think the OEMs have done a good enough job to give the dealers the tools to do these things. Like, this is complex stuff.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Some OEMs they keep their data close to their chest.
But I'm not even talking about the data itself. I'm talking about the tool sets.
Oh, yes, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So like I said, I was on a panel with Salesforce today, and if you ask a dealer what Salesforce, they're probably going to say, oh, we can do sales. I'm sorry, I keep losing train of thought. You know, like call center type stuff and
sales enablement,
follow up, sales enablement, right? All those things. But Salesforce is so much more than that.
Yes.
But Salesforce isn't going to listen to an individual dealer. Like, Salesforce has no time for that.
Yeah.
Right? Salesforce provides a full CDP solution, as an example. So does Oracle, so does, you know, a lot of companies in the space. But if you want to get access to something like that, you've got to have an enterprise deal in place. And the OEM needs to steward those things, because if the OEM cares how the dealer treats the end user, which they should, because it's their customer too, right? Then they need to give them and arm them with the tools to say, okay, for X amount per month or whatever, we're going to enable this and we're going to help pay for it somehow through a co-op program or something, to say, like, hey, we're going to give you a CDP platform. And, you know, Salesforce is giving us 3,000 seats on our CDP platform for all 3,000 dealers that we have. And we're going to share data this way, and we're going to create a program like they have with advertising and Google and every kind of aspect of everything. Create a program around data and data enablement and data usage and CRM that is really meaningful, that the dealer is going to go, I have to have this. Like, why would I go and try to find this myself? You know, because at that point you get into the vendor game, and like, this guy promised you that, and this guy promised you something else.
Which I see a lot happening right now. I hate to say it, but I am.
Because there's so much noise in the system, right? So the OEMs, to me, need to take a harder stance on this and build these programs out so that data flows top to bottom to top, consistently, seamlessly, with, you know, without any hiccups in the process where a consumer is getting an ad or a message for the wrong vehicle, or getting a service ad when they don't need it, and things like that. And that is all possible. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like, there are companies in the CPG space that are super sophisticated around this stuff, and they don't have dealers, but they have products that they sell. They have shelves on stores, and they do the amount of data that they bring into their systems to understand how many units went off a shelf on a certain day of the week, certain time of day, certain time of year. Like, the amount of data that they collect on the buying experience is incredible. So anybody can do it. It's just a matter of actually doing it. They don't have a franchise model, right? So the complexity of that is not there, but it can still be executed with a franchise model if the OEMs took the initiative to help dealers
And
with
Joe,
this hugely complex process.
I think we could see it. I think we could.
Yeah.
You know, I think there are some
We need an
OEMs that are
example.
already talking. That's the kicker, right?
Yeah.
Is that you got to get one person willing to jump in the water, right? And everyone else will do the same. And I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time because we're pulling right up to the hotel. But before I let you go, Joe, for everybody out there that's watching and listening and really enjoying this conversation as much as I am, maybe would like to connect with you or even continue some of this conversation, what's the best way to do so?
Just send me an email, joe.kyriakoza@spglobal.com. So it's joe.kyriakoza@spglobal.com.
Awesome.
That's the easiest way. Would love to hear from anybody who has questions or ideas, whatever.
Joe, thanks so much for taking the time to jam with me today, man.
Absolutely, Jason.
This has
Thank
been
you.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been great. Really enjoyed the ride too. Good driving.
Yeah.
Good multitasking.
Multitasking, right?